Let me waddle into frame. And here we go. Okay, guys. Hi, welcome. And we're starting our live. Hopefully this is you're getting audio. We have a monitor set up here to watch us as we're going. Hi, welcome in new people. We're the Dinosaur Omelet. I'm Christopher.
I'm Angela.
Your husband and wife. We raise critters down here in southern Lancaster County. We have quail. What do we call them? Silky chickens, muscovy ducks, all kinds of wonderful critters. You know what? I'm not seeing anything playing. Let me check to make sure we're rolling. Yeah, we're rolling. Sorry. Technical difficulties. Anyway, yeah, we're down here in southern Lancaster County. We've been running our little homestead / animal hatchery for what, 5 years plus.
Yeah.
What's today? 2025?
Yes.
Yeah, so over
Yeah, so it's
five
like
and a half years.
Yeah.
It's been a while. So we've been accumulating a lot of information, which we share here every Thursday practically, with different cool topics. What did we do last week?
The gut microbiome?
Yes, it was. We talked about the chicken gut microbiome. So if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments, whether live or afterwards. We always get to them. Tonight we're going to be talking about incubation science. Some actually really cool stuff. I'm going to be discussing egg structure, the interior of the egg, pre and post embryonic development. But I'm going to try to present this stuff in pretty simple terms. If you want to go over it with the kids, if you're doing homeschool or something like that. If I talk, do I talk quick? I feel like I talk fast. I talk a lot.
It's how you are. People know how you are.
So I'll try to, especially at the more difficult stuff, I'll slow it down a bit and explain it. Little housekeeping, as they call it. Oh, very important. Any of the information you obtain here today is for entertainment purposes only, not to be taken as medical or veterinary advice. Please see a professional vet with any animal medical questions. Okay? Let me make sure we have sound. Yes, we do have sound. Good stuff. Yeah, if you have any sick critters, definitely take them to the vet. We've done a lot of videos on recognizing illnesses, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, take your critters to the appropriate medical facility. Down in the description of this video, there's a lot of information. Since we're doing a hatching failures, how to prevent hatching failures, and understanding the function of hatching and incubating, in the description, so there's a couple of links. The first link goes back to a video we did, a live video, which was a complete class on how to hatch eggs. Remember we did that?
Mm-hmm.
Totally. You watch it, you'll know how to hatch eggs. I also included in there a PDF, which is, again, how to hatch eggs. It was a supplemental that went to the video, and it walks you through step by step, with images, with explanations, in a very short and easy to understand manner. So check them out. Oh, if you're new here, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to this wonderful channel. Send it out to friends. This is good information. This is not just robotic nonsense being churned out in opinions. I do very deep academic thorough research for these things, actually. I use, what do you call those? What are those big places where they teach people? Academic schools, university level resources that I do pull from, not like Facebook and other YouTube videos. People do that.
Yeah.
And then we get bad information. And then it gets circulated around. And everybody believes it.
Yeah.
You
when
know?
you hear it often, you think it's true.
You hear it once, everybody repeats it, it becomes true even if it's not. So we want to make sure that we're getting good, qualified, if possible, peer-reviewed information. I have to take a sip of water already. Would you like to say anything wonderful about what we'll be doing tonight? And let Angela tell you about her experience hatching. When did you first start hatching? We'll do a quick interview. When did you first start hatching eggs? Before I met you.
Yeah, when I was in high school, really. I was hatching silky chickens at that time. When I was in high school, I had 2 incubators in my closet, and I would go and I did the hand turning, and I did a lot of trial and error. And back then, we didn't have, the Facebook, the YouTube. We had the
library.
Well, library, yeah. We did have the computer, and I remember asking questions on, like, forums, chat forums.
Yes.
But I was like a kid talking to these adults. But anyway, and yeah, since we've been having our homestead here for the past 5 years, I've pretty much nonstop daily, I have our incubators running. and I hatch multiple batches of chicks per month.
Very impressive.
So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun. I like it. It's neat.
You know, we met online, and I didn't see anything about this in that profile.
Oh.
So we've been married for what, 7 years-ish?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't remember anything being written there about egg hatchery and hatching abilities.
You know, like a profile. It's like
That would have been a quick one.
small.
So I welcome, guys. Let's see, we have some people in there. Oh, Steve's here. I shall definitely check out the hatching of quail eggs video. It's a good video. I mean, we did a very thorough, but not overly thorough explanation on how to hatch eggs to walk you through it. And even if you don't want to watch a whole goofy thing, there's that PDF that I wrote, and that's really easy to read. Hi, Katie. How are you, hon? Nice to see you. Oh, thanks, Katie. This is actually an interesting lesson if you're not very familiar and intimate with egg incubation and embryo development. There's some really cool stuff I think you'll find of use. And like the information we present here, it's not just like goofy facts you can spew at a party. Like, you know, chicken facts. I try to give useful information to, like, you know, have a more solid understanding of what's going on. And again, whatever we're yapping about, definitely go look for it yourself. It's really interesting stuff. Okay, I guess we can start. We're always like 5 minutes into this when I start. Okay. So I call this incubation science, how heat and humidity shape life before the hatch. So I guess heat and humidity, that's, if you ever go online, what is everybody asking in the chats about incubating and hatching eggs? What's the humidity? When do I change? And we'll talk about that, when to change it and all that stuff. You know, what's the humidity and what's my temperature? And they never really go to the distance to say, why is it this temperature and why is this humidity?
Well, yeah, I mean, because they're learning, they're very beginning stage
Sure.
of learning, so they're just trying to grasp the basics with all the things that they have going on. But yeah, it is interesting as to why you know, there's guidelines and why things are set the way they are.
I'd like to say, I'm crotchety and old, I'd like to say we become a how-to culture rather than a why come.
Yeah.
I like the why come. Why did this happen?
Why come?
Yeah, not how,
But,
how to. Why come this happened?
It's more educational. You gain an understanding when you investigate the why. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so the numbers that we're talking about. What's a general 99.5?
Yeah,
Everybody knows
and
that number, 99.5 for humidity. temperature.
Yeah, 99.5, and if
Fahrenheit.
If it's kind of going up and down, because the machine is going to need to regulate this temperature with the heating element and the fan inside of it. So it's gonna kind of fluctuate here and there in the incubator. So people say, well, can it vary from that? And yes, it can, but very, very little.
And we'll go over why and what happens.
It's just half a degree, really, where you're safe. Your safe zone is half a degree.
So why is that? This is just the beginning. I haven't gotten into stuff. So why is this temperature important? And more importantly, how does a chicken or a quail maintain that temperature? Well, our domesticated quail don't really get broody very much anymore. It's been bred out. But the chickens sure are broody. But how do they maintain that really precise temperature and that humidity level? What's the humidity? 65% or so?
For hatching.
Yeah.
For the hatching part, yeah. The incubation
part
is like 40 to 50%.
Yeah, 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
So how does this animal regulate and keep that temperature? And we're going to talk about what happens if they don't. But how do they do that? Science, I mean nature. It's very interesting that over the millions of years of their evolution, or as I like to say, the wonderful design of nature, is very, very well tuned to instinctively knowing the temperature of that egg that chicken has. Chicken's body temperature is about 104 degrees or so to 106 degrees. So that chicken will sit on that egg, and they have nerve endings. They can feel the temperature of their body. They feel the ambient temperature in the air, and they can detect the temperature of that egg, and they'll put their body on it as it is needed.
And they build a nest in preparation for when they're at the stage that they're going to sit. So the the hens, ducks, chickens, they'll lay their brood of eggs one at a time, one a day, and then once they're ready to sit. During this time, they're going to be plucking feathers and creating their nests so that the eggs are nestled together, and then those feathers and nesting material is going to help with the, keeping the temperature and the heat and such more regulated properly as she's sitting.
Yes, correct. All right, so what I want to talk to you guys and show you now is another one of these wonderful, I'm going to use my chart. I want to show you the structure of an egg, because once you see what's going on with the egg, even though you think you're familiar with it, maybe you are, maybe you're not, there's some things I'll go over that you may not be too familiar with. Let's go over the easy egg, and then we're going to go over the embryo egg. So here's a plain old regular egg on the shelf. And here's embryo egg. Let me make sure this is in screen properly. I think it is. Yes, it is. Super duper. Great. All right, cool. So what's going on here? This is a chicken egg that we just pulled out of the chicken house. Yay, we love getting our eggs.
Like a fresh egg.
Simple parts of the egg. Everybody knows what that is. Angela?
The yolk.
The yolk. Yeah, so everybody knows. So we have our yolk. This is actually the building material for your baby chicken. Mostly in that yolk. But here's your yolk, and a couple things we noticed in the yolk. When you crack an egg, you see that little white dot, that white disc. People see that and they're like, oh, this is a fertilized egg. No.
It's there either way.
It's there either way, and the reason it's white is because, do you know when you have like a seed and you're going to plant a seed in a garden, it has a couple parts. An egg is sort of similar to that. So in a seed, you have what's called, I guess, the endosperm, which is the meat of the egg. It's all the building blocks of the egg. But a very little tiny part where the green sprout comes from is that little dot, the embryo at the top. That's kind of what a blastodisc is, that little white spot. It's a collection of cells, okay? And these cells are actually the cells that are going to be duplicating, and the DNA's in there, and it's going to be writing the instructions on how to make a baby chicken with all the cool ingredients sitting in the yolk, all the lipids, proteins, etc. that are in here, and some out here in the albumin or the egg white. So that's there either way, fertilized or not. If it becomes fertilized, it'll look like what? A little bullseye?
Yes.
It has like a bullseye look to it. So that's always there. People, you often hear, oh, this is fertilized, because they see the white spots in there. And I hear that a lot.
Well, they ask, does this look fertilized? Yeah.
So that's important. So I just want you guys to realize, if you see that, it's called a blastodisc. What else do they call that? I forget. White egg yolk spot. And once it becomes fertilized and it starts to replicate, it's called a blastoderm. Blastoderm instead of disc. All right. This I'm just doing as a bonus, a blood spot. Oh, that's not always there. But we sometimes see them. You crack an egg and you see a blood spot. Some people are like, oh, they don't want to eat it. So why is this there? Why is blood spot there? So when the egg is being produced, the chicken may break a capillary and little blood gets in there and gets mixed in with the yolk. And it's perfectly safe and fine. But you sometimes do see that. All right, cool. Here's a fun word. Chalaza. Sounds like a food. I guess it is a food once you cook it. The chalaza, these white squigglies. You often see them. You crack an egg open and you see this white squiggly. What is that white squiggly? Looks kind of like a rope.
Yeah, it seems like it's holding the contents of the egg in place.
Seems like it's, that's exactly right. It's like a little baby bungee cord. It's holding things in place, holding that yolk where you don't want the yolk flop down here. You don't want it floating over there. So you have this structure to hold it in place. It's amazing, isn't it? Fascinating stuff. Everybody's familiar with the egg white, which is albumin. It's mostly water. I think it's like 90% water, 90% water, 10% protein. And then a thin layer, a membrane. That's the thing we have such a difficult time taking off when it's hard boiled. Okay. And obviously, you guys are probably aware there's the air sac. The air sac during
the air sac that's at the wide part of the egg.
Fat end of the egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. So during their hatching, that air sac is a reservoir of breathing air. And the air sac becomes larger over time, which we'll discuss. Eggshell, of course, calcium carbonate. We talked about the making of eggs in chickens. Okay, and this is really a cool thing we talked about. I have a video about this. Cuticle or bloom. I don't have it drawn on here. What's a cuticle or what's the bloom? You may have heard the bloom. So when a chicken lays an egg, it coats the egg in, what is it? I keep saying it over and over again. The bloom.
The bloom. Yeah.
Angela, what does the bloom do?
It's a protective coating, and it's as soon as the egg is laid. If you look and see the egg, it looks wet, but it dries very, very, very quickly. The bloom is a coating that protects the interior of the egg from bacteria and such, because the egg shell is porous. There's a whole bunch of tiny, tiny little holes there, and that bloom will keep bacteria or any bad things from seeping in to the center, into the inside of the egg.
Yeah, it's a really, really fascinating part of the egg, this cuticle bloom. Little baby over here needs air to come in, but we can't have bacteria come in because then it'll compromise and kill the egg. So it allows the exchange of gas, but not pathogens. So it's very well structured. It's porous, but not, the little holes, the pores, are not so large that bad guys can get in.
Yeah.
Hello, viewers. Welcome, guys. I'm looking here on my iPad to see who's here. Drop a question in here or say hi. I always like meeting new people, especially if you're new. Okay, cool. So we talked about regular, plain old, unfertilized egg. So we're pretty familiar with that. Some of the stuff I thought was really important is this blastodisc and the chalaza, these anchoring, the white squiggly anchoring points. All right, going down to our friend. We're going to go see a developing egg, and I'm not going to try to be too long with all of this stuff. Let me get my notes here. If there's anything important I need to mention. Where is my notes? You know, I'm just going to make noises here. All right, so here is, this is called, or should I start? What would be intuitive to teach you guys? Let's start with the yolk, because we all know what the yolk is.
Yeah, that's true. That's where
Here's the embryo, which developed from the blastodisc. Okay, that little tiny white spot started growing from there, just like a tree. It was sprouting and grew there. But here is the yolk, and it's contained in the yolk sac. Okay, the yolk sac connecting into the what's called the amnio to the embryo.
Yeah, and usually it's down here.
This is my bad drawing.
That's okay.
So the yolk sac's connecting to the embryo to feed it. What again? It's got the fats in there, proteins. It's building the chicken. So the little chick at the blastodisc site where it's beginning to develop is multiplying very quickly. Cellular mitosis. It's splitting, and these daughter cells split off. DNA tells it what kind of a cell to turn into. You turn into this cell, goes to where it goes. Very fascinating. Coming out of the yolk sac, developing little baby embryo. And the embryo is contained in what's called an amnio. An amnio, it's a sac, an amniotic sac. And in the amniotic sac is amniotic fluid, which is water, electrolytes. It's a fluid that the chick is in. Now, what is that amniotic fluid doing for the chick? It's protecting it. It's actually keeping it thermoregulated. So if this egg does get exposed to temperature variation, it does have a little time because of, thermodynamics. It's harder to heat up a fluid. So the little chick is a little safe in this amnio fluid.
What happens to the albumin?
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So he's in the, and if you have questions about this, please ask. My Muscovy hen successfully raised many young without an incubator. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
well,
they're very good moms.
Yeah, they're good hatchers.
They love to be mamas, yeah.
And they're harder to hatch.
Duck eggs are difficult to hatch in incubators. Yeah, it's good for the mamas to do it if they can.
All right, and this is called an allantosis. Not that you want to remember that, but what that is this is where there's blood vessels. That's what those squigglies are. Squigglies here, blood vessels. This is for gas exchange. And the bird developing is not just getting nutrients from the yolk, but it needs to get oxygen. Well, where's the oxygen coming from? It's not coming from there, is it? No, the allantosis is connected to the choriallantoic membrane. That's a fun word. Corey-allantoic membrane. You don't have to remember it, but that's what it's called. And it presses against the egg shell, and it allows the diffusion or the intake of oxygen. Okay?
So is this membrane the same as this membrane, or is it a different?
No, it's a different membrane.
Okay. Does this membrane remain?
That membrane's staying there. Remember,
Okay,
we get
so
sticky
it's
membrane. The chick has a
Mhm.
hard time hatching with bad humidity.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
So that's not the same as this, you're saying?
No. So this is the Corey-allantoic membrane. This is connected to the eggshell and it's doing gas exchange. This is like a highway. The allantois is like a highway for the air to come in where the gas exchange is happening. And again, separate is the yolk sac. And little baby chick is growing here, hopefully happily, in the amnio. Animals, there's a whole class of animals called amniotes. Amniotes are creatures that have young that are contained in amniotic sacs. Mammals, humans, snakes, in their eggs,
that
lizards.
sac starts forming as the baby, when the
Yeah.
very early stage of the baby growth.
Yes, that's correct. Now, Angela had an important question. What's happened? Oh, wait. Steve says something. This always amazed me. My quails have not even successfully raised one young under the same conditions. Those quail are good for laying eggs.
Yeah.
They're good for getting eaten.
They're easily distracted when it
But
comes to sitting.
yeah, that propensity to sit on eggs and be good mamas is kind of largely bred out. I know people do brood them and successfully hatch eggs.
And
with
you
them.
have to be strategic about it. When you do get one that potentially goes broody, you have to kind of nurture that and her environment and make sure she doesn't get interrupted or stressed or distracted.
I mean, it's a good project if you want to try to get a quail to be broody. I think hatching quail eggs with a quail versus an incubator is like trying to start a fire with a flint or a stick versus just a lighter and some tinder.
Yeah.
You could do it either way. One's a hell of a lot
Yeah.
easier. So, but yeah, they're not really the best with sitting. Okay. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, the albumin. So the humidity in this, we're going to talk about this later. So you're going to notice the air sac is going to get a little larger. This albumin is going to lose some of the water. The protein is getting into, some of the proteins are going into little chick in its development, as well as the water. And a cool thing, because I'm going to lose track here, the amniotic fluid in this sac where the little embryo is growing, before they hatch, they guzzle it down. That's their nutrient. That's their electrolytes and fluids and some energy right before they start pipping, which is breaking through the membrane and then breaking through the egg, pipping. So yeah, that amnio is quite important and that fluid's important. Now, when do they know when to get out of that egg? This is very interesting. During gas exchange, this is not just a demonstration of these diagrams. I just want to familiarize you guys. So during gas exchange, the bird's intaking oxygen, the cellular metabolic process, they're going to have waste products. Okay, the cells are going to have waste products, CO2. So they're producing a lot of CO2, and the CO2 is gathering in there. And the CO2 reaches a certain level at about 4 to 5% of the ambient gas inside of the egg. Wow, that's actually a lot. So when we're breathing, that's about 0.04% carbon dioxide in the air. So it's about 100 times higher in the egg. And then the chick, it cues them in their brain. Their brain's telling them, uh-oh, CO2 has been reached. Let's get out of here. They're grown, and it's very well timed, and they hopefully, if everything was kept at the proper temperature and humidity, they're going to be strong enough to break out of that egg. In this amnio sac, with this fluid, it gives them space to develop their musculature. They're going to move around. They're doing chick stuff. They're developing their muscles. They're just not sitting there stiff and growing like a plant.
Yeah, when you candle them, it's neat to watch them. It can be a little hard with quail eggs because usually there's a pattern on the shell. The shells are a bit thick and the membrane is thick as well. So it can be difficult to see the chick inside. But a chicken, a duckling, you can see them kicking and moving around. It's quite cute.
Yeah. All right, I'm about done with this. I'm going to go over this one last time. Corey-allantoic membrane. Corey, Allen, allantoic.
Are you gonna start singing?
Well, that's how we remember stuff.
Mhm.
Allantoic membrane is the outer membrane housing these guys. Actually, it's stuck against the wall, the membrane of the egg, and it's going to take the outside air and bring it in. And attached to that allantoic membrane is this allantois. That's the highway for the air. That's where the gas is being coming in, exchanging. It's coming, oh, and we go to the chick developing so he can produce, his cellular processes. His cells can do the work they need to do. They need energy and they need oxygen. And what happens when that happens? There's waste products in the form of carbon dioxide. And when that CO2 gets to a certain level, the chick says, time to go. They're pretty much fully grown for inside the egg. And again, yolk sac, where that blastodisc, that little teeny tiny thing develops into this guy. Okay? Not this, although technically this does, but this is where the package of information to build a chick is located in that little tiny disc, the blastodisc. It's a collection of cells. That's why it's white. It's getting ready. It's waiting to be turned on.
Where the sperm goes in. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And then it starts replicating and dividing and doing what it's supposed to do, turning into baby chick, and that yolk feeds them. All right, cool. I think that's enough. I talk too much. All right.
I did want to mention, I think we'll probably talk about it a little bit, but when the embryo is developing in that first 7 days or less, within 7 days, if you candle, it doesn't matter what type of egg, you're going to see from the top, you're going to see, if you hold the light from the top of the air cell, you'll see some red veins.
Yeah, let's talk about practical stuff, because I gave a lot of technical stuff that they're not really going to practically use.
Yeah, so it won't look like this.
So information's good.
So you'll see red veins from the top, and by 7 days, you're going to see a little tiny thing. You might see, even if you can see well through the eggshell, you might see the eye, but it's real small. So it's healthy.
What do you see?
Veins.
Veins?
You see veins.
Yeah.
They're not thick. They're thin. And you'll see the little baby growing. And usually it's just like, it's very small, but you'll see it by 7 days.
And the membrane darkens?
Well, a chicken and a duck shells, like you can see through.
Duck shells are thick.
Okay. The quail eggs you can see with a bright light. You can see at day 7. You'll see the veins, but you might not be able to see the little embryo developing. If the chick has died within a few days, you'll know because you'll see like a red line, and it's just like a vein. Sometimes it goes there's a line, squiggly line that goes all the way around, or it's just like half. And as it further develops, you'll see those veins get thicker and thicker and bright. But if the chick dies, like let's say you're candling several eggs and you see nice bright veins, and then you see another egg where you see veins, but they don't look bright and like red. You might see they look faint, and it's very likely that it just recently died. And then those veins will continue to deteriorate.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
All right, get this thing out of here.
Oh, we're done.
Yeah, can you move it over there? I have no space here. All right, let's see. Katie said, mind blown. It's CO2 levels that prompt the PIP. Wow, I always learn something super cool from you guys. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, so the CO2 is telling little dude, you're going to suffocate in here, get out.
Yeah.
So he gets out. Plus there's other developmental things going on. Steve said a lot to learn here. Fascinating information. It is really cool. My thing with like learning, like I always tell, I don't know if I tell you guys, I usually talk about the whole experience with kids. I have kids and I taught them. I did a lot of homeschooling, and I never pushed, you have to learn anything. I said, I don't care what you do, just figure out what you want to do. Figure out what you're driven to do, and then I encourage you to pursue it, and the rewards are great through time and effort, and you're going to find out, oh. And that's really the thing. When you learn, you're not going to learn a lot all at once. You learn pieces over time, and then you begin to build a worldview or structured understanding by putting those pieces together. It takes a while before they become indelible or kind of permanent. Little things at a time. So that's why I don't like idiot online bullies giving new people a hard time because they don't know everything. I mean, what are you, goofy? Like
It's
people don't know
incremental
everything
builds.
at one time. Yeah, so that's why I support other human beings. If somebody, like, I respect the human being that endeavors into a new activity because nobody's forcing them to do it. It's a self-instigating kind of process. And that takes effort, it takes strength. Most people don't do that. And that, it's for progression. Anyway, speech over. It's a lot to learn, but it's interesting stuff. And that was just an egg.
Mm-hmm. It's very complex.
Yeah, biology is
growth
practically
and life.
infinitely complex. It's not infinite, but it's extremely, extremely complex. Biology's like, you can learn everything in cosmology, everything in physics, and it doesn't come close to biology. Sorry, physicists, if you're watching. Anyway, all right, let me see. Let's move on, shall we? Follow my outline. I kind of went in a different direction. Oh, my stick is quite through, yes. So, functions, mechanics, and temperature. Enzyme function. Everybody know what an enzyme is? Enzymes are proteins. They're little catalysts, biological catalysts. They perform functions. Let me talk about 3 digestive enzymes: protease, amylase, and lipase. Protease, it's an enzyme to help break down proteins. Lipase helps break down lipids, fats. And amylase for carbohydrates, okay? These are little machines. They're proteins. And yeah, they perform a multitude of, there's many, many, many enzymes. And that's just it. There's many enzymes and they all perform different functions. But you have enzymatic functions that are happening in the development of the embryo. So what happens when you heat it up? Pretty intuitive. Think about it. What's happening? It's supposed to be going gong, gong, gong,
Yeah,
gong,
you're
gong, 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 gong.
The engine gets going and growth
Yeah.
continue because it begins, yeah.
So if we're going at a good steady pace, the
So with
temperature is
that-
appropriate.
So the hens, the female, whatever, poultry we're talking about, she's laying her egg 1 per day, and then so nothing's happening. She could be doing this for 7 days. Nothing's happening. No growth is happening. Once she decides, oh, that's enough in my nest. Now I'm gonna sit. She's applying heat.
Yes.
Consistent heat.
Yeah. So think of it this way for enzyme function and how heat's affecting something. When you put food in the fridge, it stays fresher longer. Why? Because bacteria can't break it down, and there are enzymes doing their jobs too. So the bacteria is not breaking down. It's not bacteria doing the job at the cellular level inside of the little chicken developing. We don't want that because that means we have bacteria coming in because we had a washed egg. Not good. So, yeah, and if it's too hot, you can have problems. There's going to be...
Can get the development will start going a little too fast.
Yeah,
It's too warm.
basically, if it's too hot or too cool, you're going to have developmental problems with the chick. It's going to be weak. You're not going to have proper development of the muscles, the skeleton. All kinds of problems can arise, particularly if it's over an extended period of time. Disruption in temperature for a short period of time, they can acclimate to it. But even if you're doing candling, you don't want to keep them out for long. That's the problem with, like, when you're working with kids, if you're doing incubating, they want to take them out every day and look at them to see how they're growing. And that's not good.
Yeah, if you're candling, that's totally fine. Keep in mind the size of the egg. Chicken eggs, duck eggs, they're larger, so they're going to cool down a little slower. You still want to be prompt. Quail eggs are very tiny, so I would not recommend using quail eggs as an educational tool with candling because they're so small, they'll cool down quicker, and you risk losing the embryo.
Quail eggs have a higher surface area to volume ratio, meaning that there's more eggshell to less egg inside versus a chicken egg. There's more fluid or more egg inside of a chicken egg comparative to the surface area of the eggshell on a chicken egg. So it maintains its temperature a little more steady. Thermodynamics. What do you suppose comes first, intelligence or curiosity? Curiosity. I'm going to go with curiosity.
I feel like that builds into the intelligence.
I was a very, very stupid kid. I was like a solid EF student. Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah, man.
Before that,
Those
that's
80s teachers were
that's
the
the
worst. I always tell the
teachers.
story. I didn't learn anything
that's
until I was
the
like
teachers.
20.
No, but even before school, as a child, like some people may be born with more intuition or close, like detail focus, but yeah, I think that curiosity is what's driving that drive to learn, and then it's encouraging, it's building into the intelligence.
Yeah. So
However, as a species,
I don't like. So what people do is they get this stigma against themselves because they think they're relegated by an IQ. They do something stupid. Oh, my IQ is X, and this person's IQ is Y, and it's much higher than mine, so I must be dumber. This is not true.
Mm-mm.
So you can develop intelligence, and I don't want to get into the whole IQ controversy, but what I'm saying is that every human being has a magnificent capacity for learning,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, and problem solving. Like the great gift of the human is our abstract thinking ability, our creative ability. We can take information and fill in holes and understand things and create new things. And that's all I try to do here is like, hey, here's some information. If it interests you, pursue it. If not, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of I know from my experience anyway. Like the more information that you gather, particularly in a subject you enjoy, the more you enjoy the subject because you understand it deeper. Like if you see an egg, a regular person sees an egg, they're like, okay, whatever, I cook it and eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But if they understand some of this stuff we talked about and they appreciate it, it's no longer just an egg. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so sorry, Steve, that was a long answer for what do I think is first, intelligence or curiosity? I would say curiosity for sure.
Yeah.
My opinion. So, all right, functions and mechanisms with temperature, metabolic rate, that's the production of energy and cellular processes. And of course, you're going to want a steady temperature for these chemical reactions to take place. Too hot, they burn out. Too cold, it doesn't happen. It's like when you freeze something, nothing happens. It stops all those processes.
Mm-hmm.
If it's cold, right, it's slow and sluggish. If it's hot, it's going to burn. It's going to be burning up, and it's going to be burning a lot faster.
Yeah, it's very important to keep that temperature and humidity consistent throughout the incubation and then the hatch. Sometimes people don't realize that their thermostat, their thermometer, the regulators are not reading properly, and they may be a degree or 2 degrees or
China.
off,
Cheap Chinese
a few
thermometers.
degrees off, and then so yeah, that affects the hatch. Sometimes people can lose the whole hatch, but if it's running a little too cool, then it may end up you may end up with chicks hatching at different times. Like once it's the hatch date, you might have some hatch on that hatch date, but you're probably gonna have chicks hatching like throughout the whole week. But the problem is they're likely going to be weak chicks, not the best breeding stock, but they may hatch weak and just have a difficult time of thriving. And excuse me, if the temperature's a little hot, like Christopher was saying about temperature, they may hatch a little early. And again, they're each day, especially quail, because they grow so fast, but the chicks, they're really not in the eggs very long, so each day is important to their development and their growth, and with their muscles and skeleton and all that stuff. So it's going to affect the integrity of the bird itself.
Okay. I don't want to do too much technical stuff because that whole egg thing was a lot. So let's just talk about temperature briefly, then we'll move into humidity. We talked about temperature is going to be about 95 degrees, 99.5.
So it does depend on whether you have a fan in your incubator or if you have a still air incubator. I think the still air, it's like 101 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I haven't used a still air incubator.
This is for entertainment purposes
many
only.
years, so you'd have to double check it can be slightly higher temperature than a incubator with a fan.
Steve said that explanation made perfect sense to me. Oh, thank you, Steve.
But yeah, generally, most people there's usually a fan in the incubator, so 99.5. It can go to 99 or it can go to 100, but you want to try and keep it at that 0.5, 99.5.
Is that
throughout
constant?
The entire,
yeah.
Yes, through the incubation,
the entire incubation
and the hatch.
And the hatch.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going back. Let's talk about humidity. Now, humidity, we're keeping at about, for chicken eggs, 65-ish, 70? Oh, wait, that's the hatching day. I'm sorry.
So the reason why I keep saying incubation and hatching is because incubation is the majority of the time they're in the incubator growing, and then hatching is when you lock them down. That's lockdown means you stop rotating them.
Download the PDF in the description for all these cool terms and explanation for all that stuff.
For chickens, it's day 18. For quail, it's usually day 14, maybe 15, depends. And the larger birds, it's a different day because they take longer to grow. So you stop rotating them. Ideally, you lay them flat on their side, and then you're going to put the humidity up higher, but the temperature remains the same. So generally, it's while they're incubating and growing, humidity should be around 40-50%. That's the general rule. It can vary for people who live in humid areas, like their rooms are humid, so that can affect the interior of the incubator, and their humidity level can be a little lower.
The same thing with the humidity levels. Make sure you get a couple hydrometers, something to read the humidity
You want at
level.
least 2 readers each.
It's hard to calibrate. Like everybody, like finding a decent tool to measure humidity and temperature is like most of the problem.
Yeah, and having multiple, sometimes they'll say the same thing, and sometimes they'll be, half a degree or a degree off. So then you're going to want to kind of just average out with all of them.
Yeah, remember, like the chicken does this thing perfectly well. So we're trying to mimic.
And the chicken gets up and leaves the nest.
Yeah, the chicken will get up and leave a couple times a day for like 15 or 20 minutes, go get food and water, talk to, have a chicken cigarette, and then come back and then sit on the eggs.
Go to the bathroom. Yeah. So it is, that's why.
The eggs are covered in a nest.
Well, they're not covered. They're nestled.
They're nestled.
So that's why, fluctuations happen in the incubation process of our artificial setup.
Yeah.
So it's not anything to get stressed about. You just want to try and keep it regulated as evenly as you can. And if you see it fluctuating slightly, don't freak out. Just make sure it's staying, it goes back up, or, it's just close to that 99.5. The humidity during growth incubation process should be 40-50%. Then when they're ready to hatch, when they go to lockdown, generally it's about 60-70%.
Right. So the humidity, what's going on with humidity in the egg? Now, I'm going to go back to the technical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Besides gas exchange for the breathing, the oxygen use, there's also going to be vapor exchange. Water is evaporating out of the egg.
Mm-hmm.
So that egg sac, I'm not going to bring it back in here. The air sac at the top of the egg, or the fat end of the egg anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to increase. The air volume is going to increase, and the water volume inside of the egg decreases through evaporation over the incubation time.
Mm-hmm. So if you're candling, you're going to see that air cell getting larger.
So if it's too high, if the humidity is too high, what happens? That air sac doesn't...
it's smaller.
Yeah, it stays smaller. And why is this important? So the air sac, you ever see those movies where the boat capsizes and the guy's like...
Like it's upside down.
Yeah, so it's like an upside down boat survival situation with baby chick pips through the air sac, and that's their air to get out of that egg.
Because they only have so much time to complete their hatch.
Yeah, they have a little buck tooth on there, don't they? They got a little buck tooth.
It's really cute though. You make it sound funny.
They got this buck tooth
their tooth.
that they it's called zipping. They'll
Yeah.
into that air sac as long as the humidity was good and we have enough room in there and they have enough air. They take their buck tooth and they
peck.
So
what's
zip.
happening?
It's called zipping, and they open up and they unzip the egg.
But what's happening though is, so remember, there's a whole bunch of blood cells or blood vessels in there, all along the interior of that shell, with the membrane that's around that chick, and now it's like right up against the baby, and their veins, are there. So it's important, if you ever think of helping a chick, to remember there are blood vessels, and a chick can bleed out. So when the chick is pecking with their little buck tooth, they're hitting the veins, and it helps to stop the blood what is the whole, you know, when you cut,
Coagulating?
yes, and it stops the blood flow in those veins, and then they're pecked through the shell. And then it's important, the development is important as well, that the chick is proper sized in that shell, because it has to rotate all the way around to unzip. And then it just pops, you know, can pop the top off. But as they're going, they're pecking those veins, and those veins stop flowing with the blood. If they didn't do that, and you know, you just ripped it open, then it's just going to bleed, and that's not good. So it's a very interesting, you know, it's a detailed thing to with the whole process of getting out.
Now, if the humidity is too high, you have that situation where you have a sticky membrane.
Mm-hmm.
What do they call that? Cling wrapping, people call it. What do they say?
Shrink wrap.
Shrink wrapped.
So the difference, though, is there's you'll hear this.
Did I say humidity too high?
Mm-hmm.
I meant too low.
So if it's too high, though, sometimes the membrane, they'll peck through, and they'll pip, make a hole in the shell. But if the humidity is too high, then sometimes the membrane, it gets sticky and like yellow, and it kind of gets like glue. But often, sometimes people get really excited about the chicks. I often let them just hatch out, and I remove them every like 24 hours. I don't, you know, you want them to be very dry, but you have to be careful with opening the incubator while the chicks are hatching, because when you open it, that releases a lot of that humidity, and it's like quick drop suddenly, and it will affect the ones that are currently hatching. And that's what you're referring to, the shrink wrap. The humidity levels suddenly drop, and then it just sticks to them, and then they can't move anymore.
I'm going to bring up a rather brutal topic, an ethics of weak chicks. So people want to help the weak chicks out of eggs. Mm-hmm. But this may not be a good idea if you're breeding, because they may just happen to be weak chicks. Mm-hmm. In nature, they would have croaked.
Yeah.
So in a natural setting, they would have croaked. I mean, I understand you want to help a chick. That's one thing. But bear in mind, in a natural setting, weak animals just don't make it. And even if they do, the strong animals peck them.
Yeah, so if...
Like the mothers reject them, and their siblings...
often they don't thrive.
Yeah, they fail to thrive.
If you do help them, keep track of those chicks. Make sure if you're breeding or you're going to be breeding them, you know, you don't use those when they're adults. They can be pets, but if you're selling anything, you know, it's just ethics. Like Christopher was saying, are you going to sell any birds, and then somebody doesn't know, it doesn't, you know, wasn't the best, strongest chick from the start, and they're going to start trying to use it as a breeder. So if it survives and, you know, gets past chick stage, just keep track of it and keep it as a pet, or, you know, you can remove it if it fails to thrive.
I had some other questions, like general hatching questions. I guess I don't have them anymore. I must have forgot them. Yeah, it's okay, whatever.
But yeah, if the humidity level is too high while they're trying to hatch, so it is important. You can't just be like, oh, I'm supposed to raise the humidity, and you just, you know, or you don't keep track of the humidity level. The air cell, like Christopher said, is going to be too small, and the chick actually may be swollen because it's like absorbing that excess fluid, and then that can make it unable also to rotate in the shell and actually get out. So then he's
and remember, a little chick, he's moving around in that amniotic fluid. That's his, like, you know, water therapy place where he's like exercising, getting jacked to break out. So I always talk about systems dynamics. Like, everything is part of a system. I like teaching, and I understand things as systems. So understanding, I'm pointing over at my diagram, understanding that diagram and how some of these components function makes more sense and actually becomes important in the context at home when you're hatching. You're like, oh, okay, I understand these parts are doing that. I need the humidity at this level because of this. This. Today I saw somebody on the Facebook, one of those groups, complaining about chicken egg being weak, and everybody's sounding off that it's a calcium deficiency. That's heuristics.
The shell is brittle.
Yeah, so that's an intuitive understanding, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily correct. So what's happening is people are jumping to what seems intuitive as a diagnostic from basically pattern recognition. What we do as humans, we recognize patterns and we simplify things. I'm just using this as an example. So we see the brittle egg, you're like, oh, okay. Many times, yes, it's calcium deficiency, but that doesn't mean it's all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a whole bunch of different things. Could be heat stress, animal stress, some other developmental issues. Something's going on, sicknesses.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a D3, vitamin D3, lack of sunlight, lack of vitamin D in the diet for the absorption and metabolism of calcium. But people aren't thinking all of these complexities, but they all may be contributing to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with anything. It's like when we talk about sickness in birds. Well, if you see this, it indicates this, usually, but not always. Symptoms are very similar, and symptoms can be shared across board, like illnesses in an animal or in a person. They mimic one another.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to diagnose. That's why I say always go see your vet, talk to your veterinary professional.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, for a lot of cases, you need to have lab tests. And people aren't spending $150 for a chicken blood test to find out does he have a cold or a flu.
Yeah.
Unless it's a very special pet. I mean, we know people who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and chickens
chicken
are
emergencies.
becoming much more like pets and family members these days.
Steve says the big picture. Well, yeah, I think if you understand the fundamental of what something's supposed to do, this is just me, how I am. And everybody learns differently. But for me, it's like I want to understand what's this thing supposed to do. The one sentence, easy to understand version. Then I'll reverse engineer and break it down into the more nuanced and more complex stuff. Because anything biological, it'll never end in its complexity. So where do I feel comfortable in my knowledge base of this? And it's the same with like teaching. If you're doing homeschooling and teaching kids, how complex do they need to understand something? Especially when you're kids, everything's new.
Yeah.
So you want to learn the basics or the fundamentals of stuff. Like a chicken egg, you don't need all this stuff for a kid. You say, this is the egg, this is the white, and this is the yolk. The yolk is what turns into the chicken. And it's actually starting here at this little white disc.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to understand everything. But then as you go along, you get more information.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Is there anything I'm leaving out here? I mean, I did want to mention handling eggs. Yeah, handling eggs. Oh. Should I wash my egg before putting it in the incubator?
Wash it like with water?
Water, just a water rinse.
So if you have really dirty eggs, like some people with ducks, for example, I mean, they can be really dirty.
Duck is like a quacking sewer.
It's because, well, they are dirty, but some people have pools for their ducks or ponds, and the ducks will go play in their pond, and then they're stomping around in the mud, and then they go sit on then they sit on their nest, step all over the eggs. Yeah, so if the egg is clean or pretty clean, don't do any kind of rinsing or anything like that.
You compromise the bloom.
Keep the bloom. Yeah.
The
However,
bloom again is the protective coating naturally on the egg.
However, you can get away with rinsing them. I have done it in the past, and like floated eggs and stuff, and I didn't like rigorously rub them.
So why do we float eggs? These are terms.
Oh,
so
if you want to do it,
so
it's not necessary.
Eggs?
But floating them will give you information. For example, let's say you're collecting eggs for a period of time, like over a week, and they're not as fresh. Maybe they're 2 weeks old. You can float them to see if there are cracks. I mean, obviously you can candle them to see if there are cracks. But you put them in the water. If they're floating at the top, you're not going to want to use that egg.
A lot of evaporation has occurred.
Yeah, there's probably a crack or something. Some compromise happened. If they sink to the bottom and they lay on the side, they're still fresh. They're good to go. And if you see bubbles, let's say you were collecting eggs for 2 weeks, and that's a long time, but you can still have a good hatch rate even with that. If you don't have them in like a hot room, the eggs. you can see bubbles, and it's because like as they sit, there's a lot of fluid in there in that egg, and it's gonna evaporate, so it's gonna absorb some of that water. But if they're sitting upright, then they're still good to use. They're not as fresh.
So the egg's about as dense as water. So you drop the egg in
Yeah.
the water. It only has that little tiny air cell. It's not going to contribute to flotation or floating. But as that water and the water density of the volume of that egg decreases and the air volume increases, instead of a little air sac, it becomes a bigger air sac. Of course, it's going to float more, and to the point to where it won't lay on its side. It'll start sitting upright, and then when it's really older and a lot of the moisture's gone, blum, 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 it's floating at the top. And then you may not even want to eat those.
Yeah, and again, with the rinsing of the eggs, so it's important to keep your incubator clean. Keep it as clean as you can. Wash it before you put your eggs in there, especially if you. So I like having I have a setup of 2 incubators. I have the incubator just for incubation, and then I have another incubator for hatching only. So all of the dirty, nasty stuff happens in my hatcher.
Everybody asks, well, what incubator do you use?
Oh, well, I use cabinet incubators. They're pretty large.
GQFs?
One of them is, and the other one's a hatching time. But ultimately, just look at reviews. There's lots of different types of incubators, small ones that you can use. Look at the reviews. All of them are going to go up and down, fluctuate, even the expensive ones. Maybe the less, the ones that aren't super good quality, they may fluctuate a lot more, but there are methods to help them regulate properly, like you put a towel around it. Think about where you place it in your house with windows and drafts. But yeah, you always want multiple readers.
You can get a cheap incubator if you want to do something, just test out, like, because it's kind of intimidating, not because it's hard, just because it's something different. Somebody hasn't incubated an egg and hatched an egg before. It's not hard to do. It's just intimidating because you've never done it before. You ever change your own oil? If you haven't, it seems hard.
So again, if your eggs are dirty, then you can wash them, but try not to be like really rough with washing them. Just try to gently wash it, and then make sure your incubator is clean and put them right in the incubator. Don't wash it, leave the egg sit for days, and then put it in. Only rinse it right before it goes in the incubator.
Very cool. I think this just about does this. I think we went through a lot of good stuff here. What did you guys think, if you're still here? Was this of worth? I think it was a very good. I mean, I like this information. I would put this into the car while I'm driving. And just listen to this. It's interesting. Especially the egg, the components of the egg.
That was interesting.
It's a lot of people are not very familiar, particularly with a developing embryonic egg, because who's dealing with that? Not a lot of people. I mean, if you're doing your homestead or you have your farm and you hatch eggs, it may seem like a second thing to you, like no big deal. But the majority of people, they probably don't even realize chickens come out of there. You got chickens come out of eggs?
There are people who don't know that, yes.
I mean, they routinely call feathers fur. I like to call feathers fur. So the embryonic egg is actually very interesting. This is definitely a school lesson worthy. So much information, entertainment on top of it. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Katie. I really like information. Like, my favorite thing to do was to teach the kids. And I wouldn't just teach my kids. The neighborhood kids would come over, and we'd have class and lesson. We do, what do you call it, like field trip. Take stuff, go out, get samples of soil, of moss, put it under the microscope, learn the different parts of things. There's tons of information. Like, that's what I said. I'm like a 5-year-old. I'm like, anytime, I'm like, ooh, we went to the clock museum. I wanted to stay there for a week. Like a nerdy clock museum. We have one, the clock museum.
It's a good one, though. It's really nice.
It's good.
It's very
like,
big.
if you're in Lancaster.
In Columbia.
Want to have a really good first date, go to the clock museum.
That's Pennsylvania.
And if you want to have a good married date, go to the clock museum.
It's peaceful.
They should give me a free ticket just for saying that. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Katie. Yeah, it's interesting information. All right, you guys, this has been my 1 hour. It was an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, good stuff. I really appreciate you watching. If you're new here and for some reason you stayed till the end, hit the subscription button. That would be appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I want to be worshipped on the internet. People love being worshipped on the internet. I don't understand that. But I do like giving out information, and I like having a solid community of humans. An exquisite presentation tonight. Oh man, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Yeah, I put a little effort into this because I like the information. It's like actually useful, interesting information. And most importantly, I hope at least one person who sees this stuff is interested enough to teach it to somebody else. Again, especially the kids. I like kids, and you know, they should be protected and cared for, and you know, good, happy, loving environment, encouraging environment. But even adults, like I say, endeavor into something new and learn something new.
I
Right?
think there's one more comment.
Toodles until next week, y'all. Take care,
Yes, have a
Katie. I
wonderful
think everybody's going down to
day.
Quail Convention in Louisiana.
Oh, yeah.
And the weather's going to be nice, too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
All
thanks,
right.
you guys. Yeah, it's time for sleep. I'm going to go behind my phone and
Yes, everybody have a wonderful evening and day whenever you're watching this. And those of you who are watching now, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And we love hearing from you guys and your comments and questions.
yeah, we'll see you next time. I'm going to hit the off button. Oh, check down in the description for the free stuff. The
PDFs and such.
PDF that tells you how to hatch eggs from scratch and our other hatching videos.
Bye, everyone.